Call the order of the council meeting today, Tuesday, May 4th, 2021 at 5:30. Mayor, as usual, invocation and pledge, please.
Please stand with me. Lord, thank you once again for a wonderful day. Thank you for the city. Thank you for the employees we have. This month is our First Responders Month, kind of. We have the National Firefighters Day today, and also we have the National Police Officers Memorial Day on the 15th. We thank you for these men and women that so proudly protect us from all perils. We ask that you watch over them, to lay your healing hand on them when they do, if they do get hurt, but also to protect them in our society. We support them 100% in what their efforts are, and we do ask that you watch over them. We ask that you watch over the council tonight and guide them in making sound and right decisions. And we do all we do in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Shute,
here.
Carlisle,
Here.
Detman, Lawrence,
Here.
Stewart,
Here.
Ivy.
Here. Okay. Next item is any business from the audience that you want to speak. Did you see our clerk and fill out a request for speaking? Mayor's report. There you have it.
Got a couple things.
Yep.
The multi-sport event this weekend, if you all had gone down there at all, it was turned out to be a pretty good event. I think I appreciate Dan Andrews for helping out, get the event going. It was approved, and the county kind of threw a roadblock in it and made them stumble a little bit, but they found a way to get it done. Hopefully Rob, who put this on, I had a good talk with him, was afraid that this may be the last event he did here because of some of the hassle that he got. But I think he was really pleased with the city, with the county, and how it ended up, and the help that he got to put the event on. And it's kind of comforting. I kind of keep going over this every event that we have. I talked to just a ton of people coming from all over. I mean, they were all over the country for this one. It was some kind of world qualifier. I'm not really, can't speak too much to it. But they really like Sebring. You know, they like the venue itself. The lake is clean, it's beautiful. They run through the neighborhood basically, and so it's really kind of comforting to hear people come up and say that, how much they like it. We have some weird drivers on Lakeview Drive that don't like bikes and proved it, and but all in all, I think it was a pretty good event, and again, thanks to Dan for putting it on. Kudos to Scott. Got some very good reviews on Scott, which I guess is not unusual, but Scott spent the weekend down here and made sure everything with the city, and then also for our city maintenance staff and everybody in the PD and the fire department that helped out. I mean, it's really a cool city event. These things happen, and it's really comforting and good to hear how well people like our area coming from outside the area. So, Heartland Tri is coming up. Got posters up here if y'all would like one for your business, but June 12th and June 13th, so support that. Thanks again to Dan for putting that event on for, I think, the 15th year, Dan, is that what it is? So, but, and that's another good one. Usually gets between 700 and 1,000 racers. And Dan had to jump through some hoops again, so but I think everything's working out with the county. And the last thing I have is that, like I said, it's kind of our First Responders Month with a couple events. We do have a proclamation for peace officers, and I'd like to read it. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States has designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day in the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week, and whereas the members of the City of Sebring Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of Sebring, Florida, and whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of the Sebring Police Department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, and by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the City of Sebring Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service, now therefore I, John Shute, Mayor of the City of Sebring, Florida, call upon all citizens of Sebring and upon all patriotic civic and educational organizations to observe the week of May 9th through the 15th, 2021 as National Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all of our people may join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who, by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities, have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in so doing, have established themselves as an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call upon all citizens in Sebring, Florida, to observe Saturday, May 15, 2021, as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community, or have become disabled in their performing their duty. And let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. So, Carl, thank you for what you do. Bobby, thank you for what you do, and your men and women. We do appreciate it, so thank you.
Okay. We'll move on with council members' concerns, comments, and liaison. I'll start with
No report.
No, sir.
Councilman. You kind of gave yours, Mayor, I think. I have nothing, so we'll move on from there. Consent agenda.
I make a motion, we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
All right. Got a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Cotto.
Yes.
Lawrence.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Ivy.
Yes. All right. Any old business? None what? Then we'll move to new business. 10A, proposed ordinance number 1463, annexing lot 99A and portion of lot 100 of the Dinner Lake suburb.
For your
Counselor?
yes, sir. For your consideration on second reading is ordinance 1463. It's entitled an ordinance annexing lot 99A and a portion of lot 100 of Dinner Lake suburb lying in section 17, township 34 south, range 29 east, Highlands County, Florida, into the city of Sebring, Florida, and establishing an effective date.
Okay, was that second or first?
Oh, I'm sorry. It is first reading.
Okay.
You're right.
All right.
I just have one question on that, and that is the water and sewer lines going by there now, or are we gonna have to extend them at any cost?
There's water line, there's water and sewer available at the Oasis condos right next door. I think the water line does go by there. The sewer line is a force main that goes from the Oasis, the current Oasis condos, back around Dinner Lake to the Sunset Point development.
How close is the sewer line then? I'm not sure.
It's the parcel directly adjacent.
Okay. Okay.
Also owned by the same owner.
Yeah.
Have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept, pass the ordinance number 1463 on first reading and schedule second reading and schedule second and final reading for June 1st, 2021.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any comment from the public? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Cotto.
Yes.
Lawrence.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Ivy.
Yes. Item 10B, market interest for the City Hall property. Mr. Nunley.
Good evening, council. At your March 16th meeting, council directed us to seek interest in this property. Attached is a letters of intent document to be published by our purchasing department. We're seeking letters of interest from private individuals, legally established companies or corporations, government entities, or realtors and brokers that might list, advertise, market, or sell the property. If this meets with y'all's approval, we'll proceed forth.
Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion we approve the attached request for the letter of interest for the City Hall property.
I'll second.
And we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the audience, public? Hearing no comments, Madam Clerk?
Cotto.
Yes.
Lawrence.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Ivy.
Yes. Okay. Item 10C is a presentation of the city's existing regulation addressing mobile homes and mobile home parks. We have Jennifer, I think, was maybe here.
She's
Oh, she's
hiding.
behind a podium. That's a good place, right?
Podium's my
So-
flak jacket.
What would you like me to do? You want me to go to the PowerPoint? Okay.
And have a map to hand out. I think you probably already have this, but it's a little larger. Because you need more people.
Thank you, Jeff. This is better. It's
Way
bigger.
better.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see it.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll make sure he gets that. That's okay, he's not here, I'll just make sure he gets it. Thank you, ma'am. And I have, some extra copies I'll leave up here. All right, good evening. For the record, Jennifer Cotto Salisbury with the Central Florida Regional Planning Council. And as you all know, the Regional Planning Council is an extension of the city's planning staff as we look at development-related items. I know that there was a packet, kind of a lot of information about mobile home parks. And we have a brief PowerPoint tonight just to kind of summarize some of the key points of that packet. And that's a very nice screen.
Like that?
And we just had just a few photos in for. But tonight we really wanted to talk about what is in the city's code today, and then what are some maybe concepts for consideration. We can go to the next. And we'll come back to this at the end, and then we can go to the next slide. Today, the city's code actually addresses mobile homes and mobile home parks in different locations of the city's code, which are listed on the screen. And that includes where they're allowed in which zoning districts, which is more than one, and also mobile homes themselves. And if we can go to the next slide. So there are some dates in the city's code worth reference. Basically, with the exception of accessory structures, the city's mobile home park regulations do not apply to mobile home parks that were located in the city as of July 7th, 1959. That's a provision in the code today. And then we also have a provision that due to the lack of comprehensive implementation of federal building and safety standards of transportable manufactured structures prior to 1976, no such mobile home shall be permitted in any zoning district in the city. So basically, what's here is here, but if you're gonna bring something in, it's not gonna be 1976 dated. And then we have one more provision in the city's code that says mobile homes shall not be relocated within the city after 7 years from the date of the mobile homes manufacture. So we do have provisions regarding mobile homes themselves. There are also some other provisions about a minimum of 800 square feet, but I think our main topic tonight is mobile home parks, and when we receive direction on that, we can also go back and look at the language for mobile homes themselves. We can go to the next slide. So a snapshot, as you all know, we have future land use as our umbrella over our zoning districts. And in the city's comprehensive plan, mobile home parks are allowed in residential high. And that's the most dense land use in the city other than our mixed use land uses. With regard to zoning, mobile homes are allowed in the R4 zoning district, the RV, recreational vehicle zoning district, and the mobile home park zoning district. And then there was just some facts our staff pulled this was based on the American Community Survey in 2019, that approximately 5.9% of the city's housing stock consists of mobile homes. And as you know, that's data. You can have 3 pieces of data and they all say something different. And if we can go to the next slide. This is the map that has been handed out. And the city had provided the list of mobile home parks today on the map. Just next to it on the screen, just some acreage breakdown. That umbrella future land use of high-density residential. In the city, we have a little under 200 acres. The R4 zoning district, we have about 113 acres of that zoning district. We have 1 property in the city zoned RV or recreational vehicle, and I think that's number 10 on the map here. And then we actually don't have any land assigned the mobile home park zoning district. So most of the mobile home parks tend to fall in the R4 zoning district. So just some information on what we have today. And there we go. So this is the table of standards if you were to develop a new mobile home park today. And this is in the appendix that shows a breakdown of the city's mobile home park requirements. But today, if you were going to put in a new mobile home park, you would be looking at about 8 units an acre. That would be the density allowed in that zoning district. And your lots would be 4,000 square feet minimum. And they would need to be 40 feet wide. And that would be under that mobile home park zoning district. And then going to the next slide. In that mobile home district, you'd also need a minimum of 2 acres of property to have the mobile home park. And then a little further down, a setback for the front yard would be 10 feet. And some other facts, if we can go to the next slide. It's the setback between accessory building and a mobile home is actually 25 feet in the mobile home park district. And then the last piece there I highlighted in yellow, which are street standards for newly annexed properties, and it has a minimum of 30 feet for the road, and then it also has a provision if we have adequate off-street parking, 20 feet minimum road width is required. And if you go into some of the older mobile home parks, sometimes that roadway is only 8 feet. It gets tight really fast. And this is why we have a term called non-conforming mobile home parks. These are today's standards, and usually if we have mobile home parks installed the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, they're going to be called non-conforming mobile home parks because they're not going to meet these requirements. And if we can go to the next slide. And as they shouldn't, because these standards were not in place when they were installed. We do have a provision in the city's code regarding non-conforming uses, and that applies to all uses and structures in the city. If you have a structure, if I built Jennifer's planning office in 1950 with a 0 setback, and today's setback is 10 feet, if I rebuild, I need to be set back 10 feet. But these non-conforming use clauses do not necessarily directly address mobile homes and mobile home parks. And that would be an option for consideration to add a section in the city's code to address mobile home parks. And if we can go to the next slide, and then the next one. Those are all eye charts. We had provided some additional information regarding other jurisdictions. The first was Highlands County, and looking at how they address non-conforming mobile home parks. These provisions are directly from their code. Their first provision really addresses platting, which is interesting. If you have a mobile home park, you do not plat the lots. A mobile home subdivision would be the platting of the lots, and I own my lot, versus a park where I would rent the lot. But the next slide, in the county's code, refers to non-conforming mobile home parks, and that all mobile home parks licensed prior to 1973 are okay and shall remain licensed and shall not be required to follow the provisions of the county's code, except for a 5-foot setback kept in the front and rear yards. Mobile homes may be removed and replaced with similar mobile homes, and that's Highlands County and how they address the non-conforming mobile home parks. We've also provided language from Avon Park, Dundee, and Frostproof, and this is a sample. We did not pull all 30 codes in the region. But in these jurisdictions and several others, if we have mobile home parks that are non-conforming by use, meaning we have a mobile home park in a business park center, then they are not an allowable use. The codes say you cannot do anything. You can continue to exist, but you cannot replace mobile homes and you cannot expand mobile homes. And if something happens in the future where you no longer exist, you cannot reinstall. The second provision is for mobile home parks that are non-conforming uses. Back to, they're actually allowed in the zoning district, but they don't meet today's requirements. And in those cases, those jurisdictions state that you may expand, but you will expand consistent with the code. And if you have opportunities to reduce nonconformities, you will take those opportunities. And an example of that we had not too long ago in our region is we had a mobile home park that was installed in the 50s, and they had very narrow lots, probably 20 feet. They did an existing condition survey. They were a non-conforming mobile home park. And then to start working to conform to standards, when they would remove 2 mobile homes, they would replace with 1. And that is a public safety matter for that mobile home park. They also did not have paved roads, so over time that would be something that would have to be addressed with paving and stormwater, but that's just an example. And lastly, we were asked to look at the city of Sebring, which is provided in great detail in the appendix, but the summary of it is that the city of St. Petersburg allows mobile home parks to exist and allow mobile homes to be replaced with new mobile homes in mobile home parks, but they are similar in an effort to reduce nonconformities. And I think, so that is a nutshell of the city's code today and options for addressing non-conforming mobile home parks. I would say right now we don't have a lot of clarity in the code where we could provide additional details, but I think the 2 big topics are, one is the use itself. Again, if you're in that business park center where you're not allowed as a mobile home park, you continue to exist, but you cannot replace or expand. And then the second concept is, if you are a non-conforming mobile home park, over time you may expand, but it would be consistent with the code. And if there are opportunities to become consistent with the code, that would be taken as well. So that was quick. Does anyone have any questions? And I can always take a breath. Y'all can stop me.
I like the concept of, on a non-compliant park, of not being able to replace or expand. To me, that just makes sense. So, that is not in our code now, is what you're saying?
I think that the code lacks clarity.
It's arbitrary, it's not detailed. So are you recommending we do that, Jennifer?
Well, there's 2 different provisions. Again, that use, I think it would be what you are talking about, where we have a mobile home park that's located in a zoning district that actually doesn't allow mobile home parks, then they would not be able to replace or expand.
Okay.
The second part of that is the mobile home parks that we have, like in these orange zoning districts,
Mhm.
they're allowed. But anytime they want to expand or replace a mobile home, they work to conform to today's code.
Well, I don't see that, I mean, that just makes total sense.
Did we have a situation that brought this review up that we're, or was that just something reviewing it needed to be done?
We've annexed in
Okay, the annexation.
3 mobile home parks.
We've annexed
with-
in 3 mobile home parks.
I guess that would do it.
The owner of Sweeney's trailer court, or mobile home park, has reached out to me and actually is checking back almost on a weekly basis as to where we are. And he cannot bring in new mobile homes to replace existing mobile homes in his mobile home park because his zoning is R1 and C1, which doesn't provide for mobile homes.
Right.
So, essentially, he's, if you
Number
will,
one.
zoned out of being able to replace his current mobile home stock with something newer. I did have a conversation with him yesterday. I asked him, well, what is it you're looking for? And, he's looking for the ability to bring in mobile homes of a certain value because, he can make that work from a perspective of I'm going to say mobile home rent and or lot rent.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, what age of mobile home works for that? And he basically indicated to me, 1990s mobile homes. Which obviously goes well against our 7-year
Yeah, right.
requirement in our current ordinance. So even if he was able to, he wouldn't be able to under our current ordinance anyway.
Let me ask you a question. Before we annexed and the county had them, he wouldn't be able to do that either, would he? Under the county ordinances?
Well, this is downtown. So we didn't.
Yeah, but I'm saying we annexed that from the county, right?
No, not
No,
this is downtown.
this has been in the
Oh, this is
same
the,
year.
that's the one, okay.
Yeah.
Sweeney's is
All right.
Where it
right
turns-
down
Oh,
North
that
Ridgeway.
pretty one then?
Yes. And part of the rationale,
I'm sorry.
if you were to allow newer and nicer, that would look a lot better than it does now.
Mhm.
I think that years ago, the thought was if you don't allow them, then they'll all eventually go away. And they appear to be harder to go away than maybe was initially envisioned some years back. You can cobble them together for much longer than we thought.
I think we have some that are 60 and 70 years old out there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it.
And they do need to get replaced somehow or disappear. They're not disappearing. So, but in answer to your question, I think though, Kurt, I think under the county, you could bring in new mobile homes to some of those that we've annexed.
As long as it's compliant.
As
If
long as it's
roads
compliant.
are wide enough, the lots are big enough,
Right,
you know.
exactly.
but if
So-
they're not,
They're
then
not
you can't.
conforming, yeah.
Right, but as
I
an
don't think that
example, the one
conforms.
over on Bayview, and I forgot the name of it.
I mean, it
they
doesn't matter.
They
It's an actual-
bring in
Sweeney's doesn't conform.
new
Yeah.
mobile homes on occasion
know they were talking
and
about
replace
that.
the old ones.
Yeah.
That was under the county, but now it's under the city. So now, they wouldn't be allowed to do that unless it's 7 years old or less and complies with all of the
Right.
things under the city.
Bob, you want to touch on the discussion about where we are with those mobile home parks that we just annexed in and where they sit in reference to our zoning code and comprehensive plan? They were annexed in essentially with the county.
So they, the statute says they retain the zoning, the ability to, the land use, designation, and whatever they could do in the counties until we pass a comp plan amendment that, even though we've annexed them in, they get to do what the county's land use rules say at the time they were brought in until we do a comp plan change that it brings them in. So I know there's looking to see how wide those lots are, how wide the roads are, to compare that to what we've got here. I don't know what the answer to that is, but I know we're also looking at potentially with the utility ordinance that requires annexation for every time you change. There are some others that we're looking to potentially annex in the relatively near future, several of which would be mobile home parks. Some are existing, some are yet to be built.
Yet to be built should be
Yeah.
conforming, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
The new ones, yeah.
So the ones that, and I'm gonna try to use some specific examples I'm a little familiar with, but like the one on Bayview, they have a great big lot that's between their mobile home park and the lake that is vacant right now. So if I'm understanding that, they could expand into that lot because it would be going under the county stuff, or if they do, they have to comply with the new city, whatever we end up passing with all the setbacks and stuff.
Well, I think that lot is a city anyway.
I think that one was in the city. I can double check.
Okay.
But not the mobile home parks. But I think if they want to expand, it just have to be conforming.
Conforming, right,
Just have to
okay.
make sure the roads are wide enough, so I would assume that.
That's Lakeview Mobile Village you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah,
Right.
I think so, yeah.
So the yet to be built on some of these that we're talking about are not currently in the city, and they would have to conform to county standards, not necessarily city standards. So when and if we annex them in, they may not conform to city standards if our standards are substantially different than the county standards. For consideration.
There's one other item. Are we inspecting these, the new annexed ones we have? Are we inspecting these at all and getting that information, conforming, non-conforming? And one of the areas is they're supposed to have an area where they can accommodate everyone in their park in case of disaster, a meeting place or some kind of building, or it's in our code. And I do believe.
Yes, it is.
I read everybody's code, but I think it's in ours,
Yeah.
257 or something like that. Do we police that at all? Do we know that they have that?
I don't believe the newly annexed ones have been inspected by
Inspected, okay.
our staff in that regard.
Okay. I just think it's something we probably would want to look
And
at.
I suspect we're gonna find that those mobile home parks are non-conforming as compared to what our current mobile home park
Yeah.
zoning.
Well, and that may be one
provides
of,
for.
isn't that, does the state require that, or does the county?
I believe the state requires.
State requires
but
that.
probably only for a certain size and up and a certain year built.
Yeah, I didn't see the state on
They're
that.
probably
Okay.
grandfathered in for the old timers.
Or the old orts.
Yeah, you write it out in your mobile home.
So
And I
kinda-
think generally, all mobile home parks generally have a meeting place that they go and play games and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So I think that's kind of,
The nicer ones do. Several of the ones,
Sweeney's.
that are
not.
on this,
Yeah.
Do not.
Right, yeah,
Yeah. Plus, it has to be rated, I think, to a certain level,
Mhm.
storm rating.
yeah, well, all these were built
So,
too long ago for that.
all right, let's checking it in case now we're responsible for them then.
So
Gotta see
I
where
think
we
for-
fall in that.
For clarity, if you read the Avon Park Dundee and Frostproof, they're all the same.
Mhm.
Pretty much encompasses what we require, or should, I shouldn't say. I don't think it's anything, it takes some of the ambiguity out of it, makes it more specific, right, Jennifer?
I would agree with that from an interpretation standpoint. Yeah, it's easier to go to those codes to figure out what to do next, yeah.
I think one of my big questions is, are we gonna make any avenue for the people that have these really old mobile homes to move in newer mobile homes? At the present time, there is no avenue for that, and they're just getting older and older and more dilapidated, if you will. But, you know, one of the things that Jennifer was saying with one of our other counties or cities, they would allow to try to get them to a closer to conformity, take two out, put one in. I mean, would that be a consideration for any of these, or what do you guys think about that, so that we can try to get some of those really old dilapidated ones
Well,
closer
what's-
to conformity.
What, we just use Sweeney since he's talking, what's the lot size today of one of Sweeney's? Is it 20 foot wide?
I think it depends on the size of the trailer. I
Thank
mean,
you.
it really does.
Yeah,
And I also-
3 feet to 20 feet.
I
right?
also
Huh?
think that he's
Yeah.
not, I think he owns most of them.
Yeah, I
And he
don't-
rents them. In other words, they don't own the trailers.
Right, they
They're-
rent them,
they're
they're
rental.
rentals.
So the trailer park owner owns them.
Right, I'm
Right.
not sure that it's a platted, like, is it
Right.
platted? So there isn't really a specific
Lot size.
lot size necessarily, right?
Well,
And I'm pretty sure there are
Certainly not
different
any planning.
size units in that park.
yeah, I think a lot of those were more like travel trailer size. They're small, some of them are
They are,
small.
yes, correct. And may be difficult to bring in
That's a good looking place.
Large.
newer mobile home. I don't even
Yeah.
know that they could get them constructed to be
Yeah,
that
I would-
size, if you will.
He may have to remove 4 to get one in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Because a lot
maybe
of
it's
those-
something we have to look at as an individual each time and say, come back with a plan that you can modernize and we'll take a look at it and see if we can work with that instead of having across the board, because we got 3 or 4 of these out there that really need some work.
I
Yeah,
agree
but
with you,
I think really to bring them into conformity, I mean, there's a life safety issue with these with fire trucks too.
Right.
Getting in there,
Yeah.
getting in and out of it, I think is an issue that you want them to becoming conforming parks.
Yeah.
And I think just saying, okay, well, like you put 1 on 4 lots, but you're still having, the roads are still 8 feet wide and you can't get down there, I think that's
Non-conforming
another
by
issue
use,
that
you
we
may
have to
not
look
want 'em
at.
to.
Yeah.
Well, when you, I guess what my thought on that, Mayor, was if you move 4, possibly you'd have enough room to make the road larger.
Right, right. Well, I think
'Cause
that's
I imagine,
moving-
I bet you can't get a fire truck in Sweeney's.
No.
It's a 10-foot paved area.
Is it 10 foot? Okay.
I would say that Cackley's is probably the same deal.
Yeah, it's pretty narrow.
It's smaller.
And then the last.
Don't give her a.
That's
hard
not
time.
Cackley's, so.
Yeah.
And it's not a, and it's
Are
not
you
a
talking about
10-foot
Kathy's?
road. And those trailers are really old in there.
Yeah.
Okay, and also the number 6, which is the Hagner Park.
I see it, looks like it's on.
That's a
We just had one burned.
similar situation.
Last year.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
worse.
All,
If it's
most of
Well, I
non-conforming
know
by
that
use,
he's
you wouldn't want to even allow
Move
that.
some out and move some in.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and on another front of that, and I'm gonna just bring this up, we have a minimum of 800 square feet for
Yeah,
these,
and
which
bunch-
is not a single wide trailer.
Pile of
That's
those
gotta
are
be
not
bigger than
conforming.
single wide.
Yeah.
But on
Right.
some of these, maybe one of the answers might be to bring in a part model, which is maybe only 600 feet big, to replace one that was a 720, for instance, and gain a little bit more of lot and a little bit more road frontage, so that that road eventually might get to be wider. You know, and I'm gonna say, keeping in mind that, you know, do we want to have some affordable housing in the city of Sebring? Or do we want all this just to move out into the county? And again, I mean, there's some really nice mobile home parks out there, like Tanglewood, and there's some that are not very nice at all. And, but what exactly are we wanting? Because right now, we've got some that aren't very nice at all. And how do we get to where they're better instead of sitting there and watching them deteriorate for another 20 years?
Well, here's, my thought is, we're talking about this, but not one person that owns a mobile home park here.
You know,
It would be nice to hear what they have to say.
I agree.
Chris was unable to make it tonight.
The Sweeney's owner wanted to, but wasn't able to get here tonight, but
Well,
Let
I'm
me
sure
ask,
they'd be willing
But
to
he's not the
provide
only
their-
one out there.
Sure, I'm
You
sure
know,
they'd be willing to provide their thoughts.
let me ask a question to
Well, that
what
would be a
Charlie
good
was
thing.
saying. If this is a non-conforming by use, where it's not zoned, it's in a do you want to allow them to replace those trailers like that? I don't know, I mean, you might, I guess that's a decision, kind of, but if we have a rule, non-conforming use, and you want to, and it's in the ordinance, and you don't want to encourage that to improve or continue, you might not want to do it there. Maybe in design you would, but in use, I don't know. throw that out.
I would say, for the remainder of the city's code of ordinances, if I had, for example, a home in the business park center, it's a non-conforming use. And if my home was destroyed, I could not rebuild. So the majority of the code does say if you're a non-conforming use by zoning, then you're grandfathered until which time you are destroyed beyond 50%.
50%, yeah.
Yeah, but you could certainly make a caveat for mobile.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't make a caveat. I mean, if it's non-conforming, I don't think it should be able to be replaced or expanded.
In use, right.
Right.
By use.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But then it's gonna
Personally,
sit
that's,
there.
to me, that just makes sense.
Yeah.
And I also feel like, I mean, there is a difference between a park that is owned by a landlord and he's renting them out and people that individually own the buildings. But I think these few that we're talking about in the past 10 minutes are predominantly rentals.
Yes.
So it's the owner's responsibility to do the maintenance and to do the upkeep and to maintain the park, as opposed to the people that are renting from him, like a landlord would.
Right.
And so I would be an advocate of anything that's non-compliance, not replacing or expanding.
Well, I certainly agree with the not expanding part. But the replacement part, again, how do we, what avenue can we make to try to encourage these owners to upgrade their facilities by replacing them with newer ones instead of just putting another roof over on the 1947 travel trailer that's in there? That's what I'm asking. How do we get some of this stuff out of there? How do we modernize it? How do we get it looking better?
Well, it's probably a financial issue for the homeowner. And
Well, right now, it's, you say the homeowner, but we're talking
Or
about, again,
landlord.
the landlord.
Yeah.
But he can't take that out. Right now, he's getting, whatever, $250 a month for that old dilapidated unit.
Right.
If he had the option to put a newer one in there, he might make an economic decision and say, I can put a 400 square foot newer one in here, it looks better, and I can get $350 a month. So, you know, and maybe it's.
Scott found out he's getting 700 for those, so that's your low income housing. Wasn't that what you said? For the ones he owns?
I think that's his goal. He may be getting 700 for some of them now that he owns and gets lot rent for. If he doesn't own it and it's already been paid for, then I think he's just getting lot rent, if you will.
Okay. Any further discussion here? I think we're all over the place, but any discussion as to where to move from here? I'm thinking that we should accept the concepts that you brought out, that where we're vague in our ordinance, that we should straighten that up. And I think for non-conforming use, sorry, Charlie, but I think nobody should be allowed to change that in that non-conforming venue there.
Which is similar to the Avon Park
Yeah.
scenario, and also, I guess, Dundee.
Yes.
And last one is Frostproof. So I would suggest that we follow that format.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
I had to pin you down. We have a second to that?
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any comment from the audience?
So,
Well-
if I'm understanding that,
You have to come up here. I'm sorry, sir.
Howie Coops, Lake Placid resident. I was looking over what you gentlemen are discussing, and I looked at the death just a few weeks ago with the fire department couldn't get into this mobile home park. And I'm thinking, as forward-thinking people, perhaps we need to have an article that says a fire department must be able to access the mobile home park. And if it can't, they're in non-compliance. So it would be the way to use fire safety and the continued well-being of the people that live in this place that we're trying to help out. So access to the facility by the fire protection department should be a very first thing that we would look at. then the age of the mobile home and the codes that they were built to in the 1940s, Mr. Lorenz. Those probably need to be updated because they say a mobile home has a lifespan. They just literally wear out where a home can be upgraded. That's my comment, and I thank you for the time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, have another comment there?
Bay Gonzalez resident, I'm gonna kind of touch base on the same thing. I think we had the experts here. We had the fire department, the police department. So we can tap into their resources to see what's necessary as far as roads to allow the access to the safety equipment, because that offers a better protection for the owner, and you know it makes the city look better. You know, when you have these things that in 5 minutes a double wide can completely burn in 5 minutes. You know, these are national statistics that you have. So I think we need to tap into the experts in the matter, get their opinion, and draft accordingly. You can't upgrade it because we don't want to put these people out of business. But here's the guidelines to upgrade it. You know, we're doing that with home residents right now. What makes it so much different because it's a trailer park? That's my opinion.
Thank you.
So to be in compliant right now, you need a 30-foot roadway. And that's what he needs to get in and out
And he needs to be able to
and turn around.
turn around.
I think you can do 20 if you have off-street parking. A 20-foot roadway if you have off-street parking
Off-street
to
parking.
be in for a new one.
But he still has to be able to turn around.
Jennifer?
Well, not to put out the fire, you just drive in.
Just to get in there.
So we're gonna sell him the fire truck.
What we would like to do is we look at the city's code based on the direction we received tonight, is also look at the right-of-way width, which we would coordinate with emergency management, but also a provision that could be considered are one-way roads, which can be slightly narrower for design optimization, but give you access. So it wouldn't necessarily be that 30 feet, or as you had stated, the 20 feet if you have off-site parking, but we can also have some design options that still allow for emergency services.
Perfect.
Okay.
Let me
Thank you.
I'll also bring up something else in regards to this that I mentioned before, and that is the 800 square feet. So that pretty much moves it to a double wide. A single wide is 12 by 60, that's 720 square feet. And the part models are a little smaller than that. So none of that would be allowed in our code at the present time. Is that what we want, or do we want some of these? Because I know there's a lot of concepts out there of people wanting to build these quote-unquote tiny houses. And they're very economical, and you know, the environmental people really seem to love these things. Do we want to allow for that in any capacity in our city, or do we just want to say, hey, you got to have a double wide, or you got no mobile home? So I just want to see y'all's input on that.
Well, I'm all about that. Really, the small home concept is very appropriate, particularly now with our economy the way that it is.
Yeah.
It's not gonna, you know, the square footage of residential homes to me is too large as well, because of that reason. So I'm with you on that, Charlie.
Yeah, so can we move that 800 and move it down to, let's just say some other number, as long as we still have
Can we ask her,
setbacks?
has this come up in other municipalities and?
It has,
Mhm.
and I apologize because I don't remember, but we do have the typical standard for a single wide and a double wide, which
Mhm.
we would also like to bring forward in the code.
Mhm.
And also the topic of tiny homes does come up when we talk about mobile home parks.
Mhm.
So we can bring those concepts to you as well, which tiny homes, as y'all probably know, I mean, you can go down to 250 square feet.
Right.
But as a
Right.
city, you can decide where you want
Right.
that.
Okay, so you're gonna help us with that.
Yeah.
We'll
I would
just
like to see
wrap
something
it all in
probably
there.
to where you have a certain lot size, depending on the structure size. So if you're gonna have a tiny home, 250 square feet, your lot size should be, and I'm just throwing out numbers, but, you know, maybe 4,000 square feet.
Mhm.
But if you're gonna move to, you know, a single wide, And at 720, your lot size needs to be 7,000 square feet. If you're gonna go to the double wide, it may be 10,000 square feet. And then, 2 parking places for a double wide, maybe just 1 for a tiny home. But if we have some consistency there to where we can allow for some of these tiny homes
Yeah.
in our mobile home parks, I think that might be something that
Yeah.
keeps housing affordable in the future for a lot of our people, because, everybody doesn't want a 2,000 square foot house.
Right,
Does that make sense?
does to me, yes.
Okay.
So, from a direction perspective, are we advocating now tiny homes in these mobile home parks that are currently zoned like R1 and C1, as opposed to,
I think those are non-conforming.
they are non-conforming?
So if you wanna bring it conforming, there's a whole lot of stuff you have to do to do
You
that.
gotta make the
So-
roads bigger, you gotta have stormwater.
But you may be able to take one of our existing mobile home parks now and put smaller units in there, like 400 or 500 square foot, and make it conforming.
That's what I was saying a while ago about lot sizes. How big are the lot sizes? And if you you may have to pull 4 out to put 1 in, but then will you have enough room for a road and stuff like
Well,
that?
they
Yeah.
also require an outbuilding on the mobiles. There has to be a porch or a carport or a garage.
Screened in.
And I think that the square footage for a mobile is 4,000, isn't it? Yeah, so 4,000 square feet just for a mobile. So
Uh-huh.
we certainly don't wanna go any lower than that.
Right.
So I would suggest that we let her look into this. And maybe a definitive number on mobile homes instead of small homes, but a definitive number on mobile homes and single mobile homes as opposed to doubles.
And minimum size on them too as well, so whether that's
And we can talk about the small home concept with the rest of the community at a different time. Let's stick with the mobiles right now.
Yeah. Well, don't,
'Cause it's a-
my thinking is that, again, if you go below that, you can be a park model at 600 square feet. And you gain more lot size by replacing that one that's 800 feet now
Yeah, no,
with a 600 foot
yeah,
one.
that makes sense, Charlie.
And then,
But somebody's already done this, so let's take advantage of her, abilities and let's
Okay.
listen to her. And then she'll bring them back and we'll talk about it.
that sounds good.
I would think there's some of those mobile homes or travel trailers are smaller than 600 in there right now.
Oh, I know they are.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
Yeah, I think she said 250, some of them are 250. That's like an RV.
That's a
or
tiny
something.
home. We're talking about existing stuff today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there are some really small ones
Yeah,
out there.
they're travel trailers.
Like,
Yeah.
one room stuff.
Yeah.
I sense that we're coming to a point here
Yeah.
where,
Right, but I need clarification on what, I don't really understand what your motion is, I'm sorry.
well, do we need a motion?
Well, you have a motion on
to
the
have
table.
her? Okay, yeah, we didn't have a second.
Yes, you did.
Who
Yeah,
seconded it?
I second it,
Yeah.
Oh.
But
but
I don't know
we've
what-
we've talked a lot, so do you really wanna make that motion, or you want her to come back and give us more guidelines?
So repeat my motion, please.
I don't know what the motion was. Y'all made a motion and he seconded and I was lost. I don't know what the motion was.
You didn't hear my motion?
Sir?
It dies for lack of second.
Well-
Let's start over.
Can we
Well,
just
he
not say
seconded.
it dies of a lack of second, because I don't know what the motion was? Can we just pretend like it never happened and just?
Withdraw your motion.
Yeah,
Glad
withdraw
you
the
guys are
motion.
on
I
a
can't, I
recording.
can't withdraw it
He
unless you tell
can-
me
he
what the
can
motion
withdraw
was.
his
Yeah, but I
motion.
have to know what the motion is that he's withdrawing. I don't know what it was. You have to give me a motion to withdraw. I didn't hear what
Well,
you
he can
said the
withdraw his
was.
motion and
Okay,
you can
so-
go back to it.
I'm gonna withdraw my motion and
Audio.
go listen to the audio.
Oh, well,
I believe
It was,
Yes.
it was to
Yes,
give, it
Councilman
was
Stewart,
to
I
give
will
Jennifer
absolutely
direction
do
on
Right.
the,
Move forward
other
with adding
ordinances.
clarity to the
Added
ordinance.
clarity, yeah. And
Oh,
you-
I have that written down. That's what that
Well,
was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I got that. Okay. So now
Don't
we're gonna
confuse
withdraw?
us.
Okay.
All right, the motion's withdrawn. We don't need a motion to have Jennifer move
No.
forward and bring something back. So I think we
Okay.
got there from here. I'm not positive, but I
Okay,
think
now.
so.
if
Okay.
you'd like, I could briefly take 2 sentences to explain what I understand in our direction.
Oh, if you want us to remember.
Please.
So as we bring language back, it will look at mobile home parks as non-conforming uses, which means it's not consistent with the zoning district, which would mean no expansion. Secondly, non-conforming mobile home parks in a zoning district that does allow for them, and also addressing the mobile home park standards today and making sure we provide clarity with single-wide, double-wide, minimum square footage and structures that could be allowed in mobile home parks. I would also suggest that we will look at, as properties are annexed, in having an existing conditions survey, so the city has a baseline to know how improvements would be made going forward.
That's really good. Thank you.
Well, that's great.
Isn't that what you said, Mark?
Pretty much what I
Yeah,
said.
that's what you said.
I gotta go back to the tape on that one.
Very good, thank
That
you,
was good, Jennifer.
You might as well stay up there, I think.
Yeah.
Our next item of business is draft modification to the city's code of ordinance regulating metal buildings. Wire hangers and metal buildings.
I hate to not end on a high, but hopefully we can. So I think that we're getting there. I do have a handout, just briefly. I think we're getting too much paper. We'll eventually get there.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we have it. Yeah, we have it.
More for the public.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have one more handout.
I got that here somewhere. Yeah, she gave it. I think mine was laying on the.
Yeah, yep, right here.
Do you have that thing? Oh, wait a minute.
But it's just a quick.
Here it is, I'm sorry.
This is really the form.
Thank you, ma'am.
She'd certainly have an opinion.
Yep, we got that too. We got all that stuff. Somebody's prepared.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, we've already had all that.
Okay, good evening. Once again, Jennifer Cotto Salisbury with the Central Florida Regional Planning Council. So we had a packet with draft language, and we had highlighted changes we had made based on the March 12th workshop. But I think really what it comes down to for tonight's discussion is during the March 12th workshop, we had left 2 maps in the room for folks to draw on. So the map in front of you with the green hatching is a draft for input, but it's been identified as the core of the community redevelopment area. And that was based on drawings that we received during the workshop. And again, it's certainly subject to editing, but I would walk this map with the table that you also have in your package. When we talk about metal buildings and their allowance in the city, the proposal would be to continue no metal buildings in the historic district. And then the second would be to, for metal buildings in the CRA, they must be completely covered so that you have no indication that it is a metal building. And that would be at the core of the CRA, which right now is tentatively drawn, as you see on the map, in that green hatching. Moving out from that green hatching for consideration would be the treatment of metal buildings if you are in the CRA but outside of the core, covering 100% of the main road frontage of the building and 50% of the side on adjacent streets. The rear not requiring coverage. And then lastly, if you are outside of the CRA in the C1 zoning district, the goal would be to still cover the front of the building visible from the main roadway, and then 25% coverage on the sides. In the language, I don't know if we're quite there yet, but we've tried to provide flexibility in covering the sides. During the workshop, we had talked about different building treatment sides. If you come up to half the building, if you're looking vertically to a certain point on the building having an aesthetic treatment. And that's probably where we are spending a little bit more time on the language, but to offer some flexibility, but to make sure that you do have buildings that have an aesthetic treatment, so you don't see that corrugated metal siding. But this, hopefully we did not miss the boat, as we have worked on the language based on probably the past 3 workshops. And we did go through the draft text line by line at the March workshop, and I did highlight where we had made those changes. Our next stop would be to move this text along to public hearings. And the first stop would be the Cra Advisory Committee, and then the Planning and Zoning Board, and then to City Council for 2 readings. So as you may remember, our past other amendments we've had to the code, this might look different when you get it for City Council first reading. I had my beautiful slideshow, but you all have seen all those pictures.
Okay. I don't know if they have all the pictures. Do you all have all those pictures? This PowerPoint? You don't have this PowerPoint, do you? No.
No.
Okay.
And I had pictures in the back in case we wanted to talk, but they're not.
I think we've seen them
Yeah,
in
I
previous
think so too.
meetings.
You definitely.
Yes.
Jennifer, does this address a metal building that's behind another building that you really don't see from the street? I always have something to throw in there, don't
If
I?
it is an accessory structure,
Uh-huh.
no, that's not required to follow these requirements.
Okay.
If it's 2 primary buildings, then I will scratch my head and go back and address that. That's a very good question. Now, in the CRA core, it's full coverage.
Right.
But I would say if it's behind a building, it doesn't have any road frontage, then that is not any of our diagrams. So I think tonight I would take the opportunity to ask for City Council direction on that. If there's no visibility of a building, if, like I have my planning office hypothetically, and then we have a building behind us, do I have to treat that? If I'm in the C1, let's say, outside of the CRA. I don't have any road frontage,
If you're in C1 outside of CRA.
and I have no road frontage.
Yeah.
Which would be hard for me to access.
I don't
I think it's accessory structure is the only time you'll really have that, right?
I'm sorry?
Pretty much have to be an accessory structure.
You don't have access to get to it.
Yes, you're
And you
you're
couldn't drive
right.
up to it.
Yeah.
It's on an alley.
An alley would count for a
Or
road.
private
wouldn't it?
driveway.
So, maybe a C1 parcel on 27, where you have a building behind a building?
Yeah, there are a couple of those over there. I'm gonna call them doctor's offices. They're not metal buildings now, but you could theoretically have that.
Depends on what we're calling front roadway frontage. Are we talking about public roadway frontage, or are we talking about private roadway frontage?
Looking behind Blackman's
So,
Well,
strip center.
Or, the old carpet store, there's a metal building behind that building.
you
That's
could
now
have,
in the city, right? It was annexed in.
Isn't that on the road that runs off of 27?
No, you have to access it through,
So-
through the driveway of the, of
Yeah,
Eldridge's.
It's a separate.
It's a separate building.
Right.
how
Yeah.
about,
Okay.
how about maybe,
And
and
that
I'm just
doesn't bother me
thinking,
at all, to be frank with you.
like The Ford dealership, right? Does it
Yeah.
have,
Yeah, they got mechanic shops behind there.
right? So you have a metal building behind it, you don't see it, there's no roadway that runs,
So I
down
personally
the
don't see a
property
problem
line.
with that at all.
Right.
I don't see a problem with that at all.
Yeah,
I don't know what's behind it going this way,
I
if
think
anything.
Charlie's house has got a metal building behind it, if I'm not mistaken.
That was built before the.
Your grandfather
Your
did.
grandfather
did.
We're talking C1 here.
C1.
But, yeah, I don't have a problem with the metal building behind a building that you don't
Yeah.
see from the road either. So.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't
Okay.
be a bad idea to mention that.
I'm glad that came up now, thank you.
Good point. The overall building design, the appearance standards, facade articulation, and architectural treatments. This is separate from the exterior of a building being metal. These are requirements for development in C1 everywhere else in the city.
These would, the way it's written now, they would apply to C1 anywhere in the city.
Right.
And today,
These are all new things, though.
yes. Today in C1, you have to cover completely.
Right.
Yeah, so this actually offers some flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
But these deal not just with the exterior, but, or not just with metal coverings or percent coverings, but multi-story, talks about multi-story buildings in the first floor with amount of glass and.
Yep, it actually deals with the aesthetic treatment. Yes, yes, it does.
Which is necessary.
I think you've got to have a little more certainty with some of these as far as just to make it for the enforcement, when the building department's looking at, plans. When things are encouraged, they can go, well, I was encouraged, but not enough to actually do it. I think you've got to have a little more, maybe not certainty, but it can't be aspirational and enforceable at the same time. So, and some of the stuff isn't aspirational.
And yeah, some of it is, it's a mix. It's a mix, you're right, of encouraged and required. And so we should go back and address the encouraged language. Some of it is written as encouraged because it wasn't like an absolute, and I think we kind of flushed that out during our workshop.
Mhm.
But I definitely see if you really want it to happen, you have to
And-
take
and
out the
maybe-
word, yeah.
Maybe these are ones that you don't really care if they actually happen. But you can see an applicant pushing back on
Yeah.
most anything that they don't have to do.
Right.
Well, that's
They push
well,
back
that's a
on
good
things
point.
that are
I
in the
mean,
building
yeah.
code that are crystal clear they have to do.
People
Yeah.
push everything as far as they can get. That's just
Mhm.
human nature, right?
Absolutely.
So Jennifer, you have to stop that from happening.
Mission impossible.
And not to bring this up to any lengthy discussion, but I just wanted to add something or ask something, I guess. On the mobile homes, can we differentiate that in the CRA district versus citywide? And have one set for the CRA district, for instance, versus the citywide?
Well, the CRA is an overlay, so that could be an opportunity to do that. Could I ask you to elaborate a little bit more so we can look at
Well,
that?
we might want a little bit more stringent regulations within the CRA.
Which ones are in
For-
the
for the
CRA?
mobile
We had
home.
two.
For the mobile home stuff.
We only have
2 and 3, I think.
I think we only have one that's within the CRA
One on the
district.
kennel.
Yeah.
It would be number 3, probably Cackley's now.
He had to say that.
Which one was that again, sir?
I didn't hear you down here, Mark.
Kathy.
Speak into the mic.
Nothing with Catherine's on that.
Uh,
Change
would that be to look at, how would we look at those? Or what would we want to do differently in the CRA? I apologize. I missed the.
I'm not sure that we do, but my question really was, can we separate that and have it a little more strict in the CRA district if we want to?
I always like to play an attorney and then I have to look to the real attorney, but I would say it's an overlay, so we have that ability.
Yes.
Okay. And then I would ask the CRA to say what they want more.
Well, the next
of the
step is it
don't want
goes to
thing.
them, right? We
Pardon?
approve this and it goes to the CRA and then they can,
For the
Shred it.
metal buildings, but we certainly can take the mobile homes as well.
Yeah, okay.
do we need to make a motion or what, or no?
I think this is somewhat like the mobile home.
Yeah, it
Go
is pretty
forth and
much.
prosper here,
Yes.
give us a.
From what I understood,
Okay.
it sounds like we are on the right track.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
We
want-
can go ahead and proceed to the CRA Advisory Committee, noting clarification regarding buildings with no road frontage that may be behind a primary building that has an aesthetic treatment.
We gonna go to the CRA Advisory Committee or are we going to the CRA Board?
They're one
So
and the
is this,
same, aren't they?
is the city, the city council, the CRA board?
You wanna ask the CRA
No.
board chair?
What, no?
We'll ask the CRA Board Chair. The question I would have is who can the Advisory Committee make decisions on behalf of the CRA? Or would that be a CRA Board?
Mr.
There's
Chair,
a,
you-
there's a man
who
to
do you want
ask.
to hear this and weigh in?
I don't know, we had a CRA advisory committee.
Well, they make some.
David Liddell, CRA Board Chair. I would think that the CRA Board would be the one that would be the one making the recommendation.
Okay. Thanks.
So we'll go to CRA Board, Planning and Zoning,
Yeah.
and then
Bring it
back to City Council.
Okay, sounds good.
Moving right along.
Well, I was just going to say something. It's not for you, but related to our ordinances. How often have we reviewed our ordinances for the city in terms of whether they're updated or relevant in certain areas?
We don't typically go through and do periodic reviews that we, I typically would address it if someone raises
If it becomes
as
an issue.
that we want to do something different than what's either currently allowed or vice versa, they want to stop something that is currently allowed.
Okay, just wondered. Because probably, I don't know if we hadn't looked at them in a while, which is not uncommon until there's an issue. But, all right, that was a question.
Some of them are done more frequently, and one of the ones we don't want to do for a while would be the sign ordinance.
Yeah. Was that a tough one? All right, thank you, Jennifer. Anyone have any more questions for Jennifer? You might want to escape while you can, I don't know. Oh, by the way.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good work. All right, business from the audience. Anyone have any business? Okay, seeing none. City attorney's business.
None, sir.
Okay. City administrator's business.
It's been another 2 weeks and I don't have any business.
Wow.
At least under my business.
Another 2 weeks and no business?
Partly responsible for all the other stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I wondered about this vendor thing. You got this document on vending machines?
If you want to talk about it, I can have Penny come up and enlighten you. We had a request from a vendor, or a potential vendor for vending machines, and I don't know whether or not, we've sent that out. I'm not sure that we've gotten any input back from you individually. So let's go ahead and discuss it.
I sent it out.
Good evening. So we had somebody from the public come in and ask us about our vending machines that are on city property. So we did some research to find out the vending machines that we do have. We don't seem to have contracts on them. The city's not receiving any revenue funds from these vending machines. The two individuals that do have vending machines on both the Max Long Fields and the golf course, they are registered with the state, and they pay taxes to the state. Somebody's inquiring about putting vending machines at the Vets Beach and City Pier Beach. And we were just looking for some direction on if we want to move in that allow them to do that, or.
I think what we determined from the staff level is the amount of revenue that they would potentially generate for the city.
Right.
Assuming that, we collected some type of revenue, wouldn't be worth.
Trying to audit and to go through
Audit
their
them, et cetera,
records
et
to find
cetera.
out how much they're collecting, and then a percentage comes to the city, and it.
We view it more as a service to the
Come-
citizens
Right.
who are using the facilities.
I can speak to the one at Max Long because we put a cage around that building, around that vending machine because it kept getting torn up. And I think if you had one on the backside of the Civic Center, I don't think it's a very appealing looking, and I think you're gonna have the same kind of issues with people beating it up and trying to get stuff out of there, and I think probably a Veterans Beach also. I don't know if that's something we want to entertain, is to junk those areas up any more than necessary, in my opinion.
I used to rent an office on Kenilworth across from the high school, and the owner put a vending machine out front. It was gone the next morning, the entire vending machine.
Yeah, actually, there's a metal cage around the vending machines at Max Long, so.
Right.
Who put that there?
The,
Vendor?
no, the
Park.
baseball did, so.
There,
So
I
the
guess
vendor
it
didn't
would be
pay
a little
anything
bit of
for it.
expense for the power, the electric,
Yeah.
on a regular basis.
For sure, especially
assuming
like
it's
a Coke machine or
that's
something.
Whatever, $20 or $25 a month.
Some with a compressor. But every time I've been involved with those, there was a fair amount of money that was made and paid by the vendor to
Right.
compensate for those things. I don't know what, not enough money for you guys to,
Yeah,
audit is.
there wouldn't be a revenue stream, I wouldn't expect, to the city.
Mhm.
And one of the vendors that I did speak with said that if it's not turning over enough, drinks or chips,
He'd pull it.
yeah,
Yeah.
pull it.
Well, they haven't
But we
pulled
have a
those
s-
for a while.
We have a specific
Yeah.
individual that was just coming to us
Mhm.
asking because they were interested, not one of the current vendors.
I was just thinking, concerned about keeping, like you say, the visual on it. Those machines get beat up, but till they quit operating, they don't remove them. Some of them may have rust on them, I've seen, that kind of thing, keeping up the aesthetics of it. And I don't know if the city should require that at our venues. That was where I was going, maybe not making the revenue there. I agree with you there. But I don't know, that maybe there should be some kind of agreement or requirement, maybe not real, I don't know. Let the
The
attorney.
ones that we have, do they do any business?
I would imagine they do. They haven't removed them. Some of
Yeah,
them
been there a while.
have been there for
Many years?
many, many years.
Yeah, the locations essentially are, I wanna say, I don't think all, but some of the restrooms, maybe all of the restrooms on the golf course itself, and
Mhm.
then, at Max Long Complex, right?
Mhm.
That's,
Correct.
is that it?
I think the golf course by the bathrooms is probably older than the golf course itself. That may have been there when they started.
Yeah.
I think it's been handed down a few generations.
So it sounds like, I think I agree with the mayor on this one.
Just leave with what we have.
It's a shock, wasn't it?
You need to write that date down. So you
And
gotta
he probably
vote.
wants to borrow money and buy one, so I don't know.
I've got one I wanna move out there, so.
Yeah. All right,
Is the consensus not
Plus
to
it-
move forward, or?
Yeah, plus it's a hassle, cause the machine gets jammed, and when we were out there, it's always coming up, hey, they stole my money,
Mhm.
they took my money, I couldn't get my Coke out. It's like, no, not our problem.
Right, it isn't.
Right, and they're labeled to call the vendor, not.
Yeah, but it
obviously the
doesn't
city.
matter. It's on
Well,
city
nobody's
property.
Call vendor for
Nobody
$1.
reads.
Am I hearing there should be some kind of instructions to the vendor of what the city requires, or
I think we just.
Move
we had-
forward and forget
We haven't
about
had
it.
any issues, I think we just leave what's there but not add, in my opinion.
it's all right with me?
That sounds good to me too.
Kinda like
Alright.
non-compliant mobile homes.
There we go.
Yeah, that's it.
Now can we talk about the size of the vending machine?
Yeah.
How many square feet they gotta have?
Okay, yeah, it's just, I had brought that up because we got it in our packet, that's all. All right.
Well, are you done with your meeting part? Don't mean to interrupt if you have something else.
No,
but-
I'm good.
But I just wanna let y'all know that we are having a 4th of July celebration, no matter what
What
everybody
day?
else says.
It's on Sunday night?
Yes.
It is on Sunday night?
Yep.
Okay,
So,
good.
it'll be on that day. There's
Very
a,
good.
there is something else that day that,
Church.
No. Church.
Yeah.
Church.
Oh.
This,
Is that local?
Yeah,
Is
you
that a
have-
nonprofit? So, no.
It's a
this
metal
Saturday,
building.
you have Andrews Run 5K.
Yeah.
It's coming Saturday.
Yeah, but there's something else on July 4th too, that during the day that, what the heck was that? I just saw it, but it would kind of be complimentary of what the city's doing at night, so.
I think there's a 5K run.
Is it Sunday?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chet Project.
Okay.
He's got that. He's doing his fourth. No, it's actually Chet Project's run. He's looking at doing it downtown from Fireman's Field around the softball complex or Vets Beach even he talked about, but they cannot hold it at the park because they have very strict COVID guidelines at the park. So
Okay.
so he's gonna be that's what's happening on that Sunday. So.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that we're having it before.
So you'll all be getting love letters.
I'm sure that was coming.
For donations. And donation, and I'm sure the Historical Society's gonna step up big time this year
Yes.
and support it, so. You will now.
No.
Payback time, buddy.
All right. The last item, city clerk's business and announcement, bills.
Councilman Smith,